Okay, now we're going to start talking about when to use teams and when not to use. So let me blow this up a little bit. So we're supposed to use teams when there's a clear, engaging reason or purpose. So what can be a clear, engaging reason or purpose? Well, they say if the job can't be done unless people work together. I don't know. When we look back at the reasons why we use teams or the advantages of using teams, there's a lot of times when there's a job to do and it can be done by one person. But if it can be done better in a team environment, and there's trade-offs. Usually teams take a little bit more time to get things done because of how deliberate they go and how much better their decision-making process is and so forth. So a clear and engaging reason or purpose might be just employee satisfaction, helping them being satisfied and happy where they work, right? And this idea that if the job can't be done unless other people work together, that's important to know, but I don't know. There's other reasons why we might do it, even if that is the case. And then they say rewards can be provided for teamwork and team performance. Well, we know with Dan Pink's video that bonuses really don't help people do better unless it's in a really menial, non-creative way. Usually, when we have teams working together, it's for there's problems, there's goals that they're trying to achieve. So I'm not sure if we need to have rewards except for the intrinsic rewards. The idea is pay people well, so you don't have to worry about bonuses and stuff like that. Ample reasons or resources are available. Definitely. If you don't have resources to support a team, then teamwork probably isn't. And there are times when it just would be more efficient to have one person do something, and they've been doing it for a while. There's no reason to bring a team in on this. So let's go over to the other side. Don't use teams when there isn't a clear, engaging reason. A job can be done by people working independently. Again, there are reasons, even though it can be done that way, to have a team work on something. Okay, it just is the opposite of the other. Let's go on to autonomy. Anatomy. Here we go. Autonomy is so one of the things that we get in these books are like a framework to understand how to look at different teams. So autonomy is the degree to which workers have discretion, freedom, and independence to decide how and when to accomplish their jobs. You need to know that definition. Now they take that definition and say, well, we see that teams have different levels of autonomy, so we're going to now separate teams into those levels of autonomy. Sometimes it's a very fluid thing. Sometimes when we first, just like when we first hire somebody, we might not give them a lot of autonomy or freedom to do whatever because they're learning their job and they need more management involvement, or else they'll become overwhelmed. So same thing with a team. Even though it's not just one person, we have a group of people, and sometimes we have a new person that's the team lead, and they're new to being a team lead. So initially we don't give them a lot of autonomy. But as things go and as the team progresses and performs better, then as the manager that the team reports to, you back off and say, oh, okay, why don't you guys make that decision? Why don't you guys make that call? Why don't you guys find those resources? So this is this table can be found in your textbook, so you can look at it. I know it's hard to read here. But basically what you're looking at is we have this traditional work group that has a very low autonomy in it. And you might want to ask yourself, well, what kind of work groups, what kind of employees belong in that type of work group, right? And usually not a very experienced employees, right? And maybe it's just a work group that functions better when there's 2 people or 3 people working at that workstation or on this type of project. like inventory. So we're going to do inventory. We're going to inventory this storage location, and sometimes it's better to have more than one person, even though it's a very non-creative type of job, right? And then we go into employee-involved groups where they're advising managers on how to look at different situations or different problems. And then not only do we, to the semi-autonomous, where not only are we advising managers, but we also are making some decisions on some resources to investigate or to do some analysis. And you can see how it keeps on going from semi-autonomous to self-managing teams, where they do have full decision-making and problem-solving authority, and then to self-designing teams. Okay, let's move on. But remember, just before we go, Dan Pink and The Power of Motivation, or the script, I forget what the video is called, but where Dan Pink is talking about autonomy, mastery, and purpose as being hugely important to help people get that intrinsic motivation. So as we go from low autonomy to high autonomy, the people on the team seem to be happier, right? Just need to point that out. Okay, special kinds of team. Now, for me, in my professional career, most of the time I've been in cross-functional teams. Even when I was in the military, when I deployed to the Iraqi border, we were in a cross-functional team. I was a signal analyst. We had signal interpreters. We had signal analysts. We had language interpreters, voice interpreters. We had Morse intercept people. We had senior people that were warrant officers. We had people managing the deployment. We had logistics officer. We had security forces. We had even members of the NSA working with us. Really cross-functional team. In IBM, when I was working for them, when I was working for Honeywell, when I was working for CVS Caremark, most of the teams I worked on were cross-functional teams, and that gives us a depth of experience. Virtual teams, there's one of the good things about working on teams is that shared experience where we're sharing ideas, and sometimes that happens just because you're sitting next to each other and you come up with an idea, and instead of just thinking about it, you say it out loud. Well, you lose that with virtual teams. Unless you really get good about working on virtual teams and helping people work on virtual teams, where when that idea comes up, there's a group chat that everyone's on, and you put it on your chat, right? Usually you don't have a phone that's open all the time during the work hours, and usually in virtual teams, one of the reasons we have virtual teams is so that we have more support around the clock. So we have people in the U.S., some people in Germany, some people in India, and some people in China, and we serve different time zones, so we can usually be available, and then we work together, and some people lose sleep because of when the team meetings are called. But virtual teams, we usually don't have that face-to-face. Now, project teams are teams that are set up, they're really flexible, and they're set up just for a specific period of time or a specific task. Now, there are some problems with project teams. One of the problems with a project team is that we get into, there's not as much cohesion that happens because we don't have to. We know we're going to be on this project together for maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months. Usually if it's going to be a year-long project and you know it's going to slip to 2 years, then you get some more cohesion. But if it's just like a couple of months to 6 months, we don't address problems, we just ignore them. And we'll let them irritate us because we know it'll be over soon. So, yeah, there are that lack of cohesion, maybe some lack of commitment because it's a temporary thing, and it's not really going to be important to my career. I'm just here to help out and go. And sometimes people are actually worried about job security. I might be pulled from my desk job to work on a project for 2 years. They have to backfill that desk job. Now, what happens after this project is done? I've been on a lot of projects where we've had people in those circumstances, that lack of security about what they're going to do at post-project can undermine their productivity. When we look at work teams, there are several different things that, well, you know what, I'm going to stop here and we're going to start this in part 3, and we're going to talk about the work team characteristics.